This is our routine. Day and night, all we do is survive. It never lets up.
How do you do? I'm Dustaroo. This is another entry in a series of videos where I take well-known licensed content and attempt to adapt it as accurately and creatively as possible to the game of Dead by Daylight. This includes a killer and their entire power with visual examples, all their add-ons, a survivor, and every perk the chapter would bring. If you're only interested in specific parts of these kinds of videos, these are the timestamps down here for everything in this video, so you can find it and see if you like it instead of watching anything you might not want to watch. This will be the 10th entry in this series, and it is quite a special one to me, that being The Last of Us. This won't be talking about any of the quality or controversy around the games or the television show.
Dad.
The point of this video is focusing on bringing this universe to life within Dead by Daylight as faithfully as possible. Appreciating the characters and the world, focusing on the good. The Last of Us is a special game to me, being a personal favorite piece of media. I consider it a masterpiece, even in spite of its flaws. And now felt like the perfect time to talk about how The Last of Us would work in Dead by Daylight. The world of The Last of Us takes place 20 years after a fungus known as the cordyceps mutates to be able to inhabit the bodies of humans, an evolutionary jump of unprecedented magnitude. While before the cordyceps mushroom could only infect and control small insects, such as ants, they suddenly now have obtained the capability to spread through the most prevalent and far-reaching large species on the planet, humanity. With no cure or preventative medicine, with the ability to spread through mere contact from infected hosts, and the discharge of spores that will kill or infect any human who happens to breathe in even a little bit of it. The infection spread like a wildfire through the entire planet, causing the complete collapse of the world order, forcing the very few remaining humans into small quarantine zones or other tiny hidden communities, struggling to feed themselves while fending off the potential millions of aggressive, now infected humans, whose sole goal is to spread the cordyceps infection. The cordyceps infection is such a pervasive and dominant force on the earth as the very land itself can become corrupted by it, turning every building, basement, or subway into a completely consumed pit of spores, all while the infected gradually evolve to become something even more dangerous with every passing year. Over time, infected humans have more of their body become coated in hardening cordyceps fungus, altering their behaviors and their abilities to dispatch non-infected that they come across. There are various stages of these infected: the runners, stalkers, clickers, the shambler, and of course, the most intimidating form of infected created by the cordyceps fungus, and the killer that will be brought into the world of Dead by Daylight, the bloater. An infected of massive physical strength and incredibly durable defense. This is all thanks to the hardening cordyceps found all over their body, acting like armor plating that you would expect more so from a tank over a walking, sort of talking creature. They are a threat that can single-handedly overwhelm a squad of soldiers and possibly even leave the confrontation alive, especially if no fire's involved. Alongside being physically imposing, the bloater is the only infected that makes use of a weapon for longer range conflicts, instead of the usual melee-focused offense the rest of the infected make use of. Growing on his bodies are pouches of mycotoxin, a toxic mix of spores and acid used for the sole purpose of self-defense, in quotations. These spores won't infect a person, but will cause their skin to bubble and peel in a matter of moments. The bloater truly is the apex predator in The Last of Us, top of the food chain. And in that position comes different behavior and different motivations. Unlike other infected which seem to tend to try at least to infect a human during a fight, the bloater's tactics purely focus on killing the person, by beating them in the head repeatedly or ripping their skull apart with their hands. The bloater is aggressive for the sake of killing over spreading the infection. Perhaps its role in the hierarchy of the cordyceps is to be a protector, solely for removing threats. Maybe the infection has caused them to be so unstable that the aggression takes hold more than the need to reproduce does. Regardless, the bloater defaults to violence, and killing in any way it believes it will get the job done, making this infected creature a very destructive and effective tool that the entity can use to inflict a special kind of suffering on the survivors of Dead by Daylight. The bloater is a tall height killer with a 32-meter tear radius and a movement speed of 115%. Or 4.6 meters a second. Its title is that of the cordyceps. Utilizing the cordyceps fungus that consumes its body, the bloater, with some assistance by the entity, uses these specific abilities to track, obstruct, and ultimately kill any survivor it can get its hands on, or any survivor caught in its spore bomb. The spore bomb is a mycotoxin pouch that can be torn off the bloater's body and lobbed like a grenade, that after a short delay will explode, causing a cloud of spores to rain down in the blast radius. When survivors come into contact with these acidic spores, they slowly build up a toxin bar. When the survivors build up enough toxin so that their bar fully fills, said survivors lose a health state, and find themselves constantly coughing until they are healed or placed into the dying state. The explosion from a spore bomb will inflict a survivor with a massive amount of toxins, while the cloud after will be a lot less intense and only build up a little bit in comparison. These toxins will be automatically flushed by the survivor's immune system over time. But unfortunately for them, that time does not come very fast at all. They should expect to still have some toxins by the next time the bloater comes around. So it is best to avoid these spores as much as possible. Spore bombs can be tossed next to hooked survivors, but the spore cloud afterward will not appear. These spore bombs are a constantly regenerating ability for the bloater, starting the trial with 3 of these pouches available to be thrown at the bloater's discretion. After a decent amount of time, something like 25 seconds, these pouches will reform on the bloater's body, one by one, until there is no more room for any growth. Not until another spore bomb is tossed will the regrowth of another begin. These spore pouches will not be the only thing growing in the trial. Cordyceps and their spores have a habit of sticking and growing on surfaces they come into contact with. You could call this a fungal growth. Anytime a spore bomb detonates in the trial, it will leave behind a patch of the cordyceps fungus on the ground or on the interactable object caught in its radius. These patches of cordyceps cause traversal to be a little bit more difficult for any survivors having to move through them. Survivors that have to walk over a patch of these cordyceps will have their movement speed hindered while in contact with them, placing survivors into dangerous situations they may not usually ever be in mid-loop. Objects and interactables like generators, totems, hooks can all be overtaken by the fungus, making survivors need to spend time removing the cordyceps before being able to interact with these objects. Other objects, such as windows, lockers, downed pallets, any vault location really, can gain these growths, making survivors attempting to use them much slower, and in some cases, impossible. When a fungal growth takes hold of these vault locations, survivors, no matter their speed or angle, are unable to perform fast vault actions, forced to have to take the action as if they were slow vaulting. These invasive mushrooms will make things difficult for any survivor to escape the bloater chasing right behind them, but things can always get worse. It is best to not let these fungi settle and grow throughout the match, because that will cause a fungal overgrowth. When any vault location or locker is in contact with the cordyceps fungus for too long, it becomes a victim of fungal overgrowth. Objects suffering from an overgrowth will not slow survivor actions like they did before, but will completely block them off. Just like a window being blocked by the entity after being used too many times in a chase, the cordyceps will block any vault or locker from even being usable until the cordyceps are destroyed and removed. Survivors who approach a fungal growth can, in a short animation, brush it away, removing the cordyceps from that location permanently, or until another spore bomb lands there. And in the case of an overgrowth, it will take survivors twice as long to clean up, as there's just so much more to tear apart. There can be 12 of these active growths in the trial at any time, and if the cap is reached, the earliest place cordyceps growth will wither away as the new one forms. At any time, the bloater can choose to vault, open, or break any overgrown object, but will destroy their fungal growth in the process. The bloater is, though, not solely reliant on spore bombs, as he has also developed the ability for echolocation, and with the powerful body to allow it, the bloater can unleash a loud and trial-wide roar. This roar of echolocation gives the bloater the ability to detect any movement of any survivor in the trial, while also arousing every fungal growth. Any survivor caught moving in any way during this roar will have their location revealed on Killer Instinct for 4 seconds. During this roar, all fungal growths in the trial will respond to this call and discharge a cloud of acidic spores in the same way a spore bomb would. Survivors outside of Chase still need to be worried about these cordyceps, as at any time they can become deadly, really reinforcing what a great idea it is to never allow these cordyceps to gain root anywhere in the trial. So what add-ons would the bloater bring into a trial to adapt and mutate for its best chance of removing the survivors? Brown add-ons. Brick. Survivors hit by a spore cloud become oblivious for 30 seconds. Bottle. Survivors hit by a spore cloud become blind for 30 seconds. Supplements. Spore bomb's cooldown to reform is reduced by 2 seconds. Weapon parts. Clearing fungal growths takes 20% longer for survivors. Green add-ons. Sugar. Echolocation cooldown reduced by 25%. Binding. Clearing fungal growths takes 30% longer for survivors. Alcohol. Survivors hit by a spore cloud become exhausted for 15 seconds. Blade. Fungal overgrowth develops 100% faster. Rag. Survivors outside the tear radius do not hear the roar of echolocation. Blue add-ons. Broken watch. Toxins build up 50% faster from spore clouds. Switchblade. Using echolocation grants the undetectable status effect for 8 seconds. Child's toy. Echolocation causes all survivors within 24 meters to be revealed on Killer Instinct while not moving. Penicillin. Gain 1 extra spore bomb. Splattered golf club. The bloater gives a 5% haste effect for 3 seconds after moving through a spore cloud. Purple add-ons. Fedra training manual. Survivors after clearing a fungal overgrowth will have their aura revealed for 5 seconds. Firefly pendant. Echolocation can detect survivors repairing generators. WLF patch. Spore bomb's cooldown to reform reduced by 5 seconds. Painting of the Prophet. Survivors who move through fungal growths are revealed on Killer Instinct for 3 seconds. Iridescent. Father-daughter photo. Echolocation no longer detects survivors or targets all fungal growths. Echolocation can now directly target a specific fungal growth and discharge it. Reduce the cooldown of echolocation by 50%. Skin of the Rat King. Spore bomb explosions and spore clouds instantly remove a health state. Spore bomb's total is reduced to 1. You can't have a killer without a set of teachable perks brought into the game, and these are the bloaters. Hidden Bite. When a survivor is injured by a basic attack and is fully healed by an injured survivor, that survivor becomes afflicted with the broken status effect for 20 seconds. Dwindling resources. When a survivor item loses charges or seconds by any means, dwindling resources fills up until a token is gained. Tokens are gained from 24 charges being consumed. The next break action the killer makes will be performed 75% faster and the token consumed. If the break action is performed on a generator, it regresses the generator an extra 6%. Heightened hearing. When a survivor performs a rushed action 40 meters away from the killer, their aura is revealed for 8 seconds. It's rare when a horror license's main draw isn't the killer, but a survivor. And in the case of The Last of Us, it's 2 survivors, Joel and Ellie. You can't talk about one without the other being thought of shortly after. The entire reason the game is still relevant today, 12 years later, is the relationship between these 2 characters. It is truly the core of what makes The Last of Us a special piece of art. It is such an important piece of the puzzle of why the people love The Last of Us, that the loss of this relationship is the whole point and driving conflict for the second game. So any talk of adding either of these characters has to include the other. Anything else would be an injustice to the spirit of the games. Both are survivors. Joel, living through the start of the cordyceps infection, witnessing his daughter's death as she breathed her final breaths in his arms after he fails to protect her. He survived for 20 years, but came out on the other side a shell of the man he was, a shell of what it even means to be a human, a killer, a smuggler, a man refusing to let any emotion besides rage towards those who may have wronged him in his heart. Through a deal gone wrong, Joel is tasked with transporting Ellie, an orphan girl who's never known life outside of the quarantine zone of this apocalyptic world, who through some miracle finds herself the lone human alive, immune to the infection that has brought humanity to its knees, and with every passing day inching closer to extinction. Together they travel across America, witnessing the horrors that would scar the strongest of people, struggling for every mile they travel to get Ellie to the Fireflies, where using her immunity they believe they can manufacture a vaccine that could cause humanity to rise from the ashes of this burnt world. While they find themselves constantly fighting for survival together, born out of this reluctant alliance of Ellie getting to the Fireflies, they soon grow a lot closer, as Joel teaches Ellie how to survive this unforgiving world and how life used to be before this all went down in flames, telling her how he lived and the mundane and normal problems humans used to worry about. Ellie, who has only ever known a life of necessity, can uniquely point out to Joel how strange it all sounds.
I thought you had plenty of food in your time.
Oh, we did. Some just chose not to eat it.
Why the hell not?
For looks.
That's stupid.
Causing Joel to reflect on the life he used to live. He also starts to admire and appreciate Ellie's outlook on the world. That even through all the misery Ellie has been taught, and the lack of life Joel used to take for granted that she will never understand, she harbors a light and a joy of existing that Joel thought was long extinguished from humanity. Their bond becomes even closer than that of a guardian and ward. Ellie's whimsy and humor wears down the impossibly tough walls Joel was forced to build through these 20 years of survival, as he learns to love again, seeing her as the daughter he lost so long ago, and her seeing him as the parent she never had. Through this deep bond, they solidify themselves as one of the most compelling stories of a found family I can think of. A reminder that no matter how terrible life may become, how much pain one can suffer, how much trauma one can stack on their soul, the love for others and keeping them safe is the meaning to living. Surviving at any cost to keep your family going is humanity's greatest virtue, which can, with a slight turn of fate, become humanity's greatest evil. Joel and Ellie are some of gaming's greatest protagonists, one of media's best examples of survivors, a perfect example of characters who put their whole being into the protection and safety of those they care for, willing to face down any threat, no matter how intimidating, to not only survive,
No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for.
I struggle to think of characters more deserving of coming into the game of Dead by Daylight than these two. Regardless of the legacy they leave behind both in and outside of the game, these two are iconic and emotion-driven survivors. We need to talk about the unique skills these two possess that would be a valuable asset to any survivor in Dead by Daylight. Scavenged safety. Scrap piles left behind by broken pallets can be collected. When 3 scrap piles have been collected, at any empty valid pallet location, craft a raised pallet. Scrap pile auras are revealed within 8 meters. Stop and listen. While crouching, suppress all breathing, grunts of pain, and pools of blood. The killer's aura is also revealed within 6 meters while crouching. Spare holster. Survivors gain the ability to carry 2 items and switch them on command. While crouching, the use item button becomes the swap item button. And that was The Last of Us chapter for Dead by Daylight. So what do you think about this one? Do you like the bloater killer concept? Do you have any ideas for how you would add an infected to the game as a killer? Is The Last of Us a chapter you really want to see come to Dead by Daylight? Let's hear about it. I put a little bit more storytelling than usual for these kind of videos because of my recent diving back into this series after a decently large break from it, and I have a lot of love for this particular property. And I think really selling on why these two are great characters is important, on why they need to be tied at the hip. Same as the bloater, as setting the stages of why and how the cordyceps work explains why the killer does the things it does. And to cap off this large endeavor, I am once again asking you for your vote on what the next chapter adaptation I should do for the series. I have many with some level of progress on them, but these are the 4 of the closest to completion. So leave a comment down below on which you would prefer to see, and the one with the most attention will be coming out next. First off, we have Berserk, with the tagline, Predict and Parry. Stephen King's It, with survivors' greatest fears come true. A Quiet Place with Stay Quiet, Stay Alive. And finally Dishonored with Sudden Stealth, Rats, and Bone Charms. Leave your vote down below. And with that, we come to the end of the video. So final notes. I am going to be ramping up videos on this channel here very soon, aiming for at least 1 decently sized video a week, with maybe some smaller videos in between. I'm also going to be doing an overhaul of the Discord server for this channel somewhat soon, and as I am excited to get back into YouTube with some pretty cool new ways that you'll see somewhat soon. But I do need your help for this channel, and all you have to do to help is that if you liked this video and want to see more like it, hit that like button and maybe even subscribe. It's a second to you, and it's a ton of help for me. And if you are feeling extra generous, you can join this channel as a member and gain access to Dead by Daylight specific badges and emojis, and even a shout out in the end of every video moving forward. But enough panhandling, I want to say thank you all for watching. My name is Dustaroo, and I will see you all real soon. Bye bye.